Hi, good afternoon here from Los Angeles. Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and Aspiring magazine. And I'm so glad to have my guest here. Today, I'm going to have her introduce herself. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Mary Lou Belli. I'm a television director. I'm a producer as well. I've been nominated recently for three Primetime Emmys for a comedy sitcom called The Miss Pat Show, but I'm also an author. I've written four books, all of them about the business, the sitcom career book, Directors Tell the Story, Acting for Young Actors, and Acting for the Screen.
Yay. Thank you, Mary Lou. It's so wonderful to reconnect. Our boys went to Montessori school together a couple of decades ago. And looking back, what role, if so, did family and early community connections play in shaping your path as a director and mentor?
Yeah, well, I think a couple things. First of all, the Montessori that they went to was so arts oriented that the people who were sending their kids there valued that. And therefore, I literally made some of my connections in the business through that. People who were exec producers or writers or costume designers or, they were part of that arts community. Um, and then beyond that, just seeing that I valued it. And I'm wondering if I've ever used any of the kids who are now adults as actors in things I've cast. Now, you know what? I didn't from Montessori, but because my children went on to do performing arts high school here in Los Angeles, I have hired some of those kids
Yeah,
as
yeah.
adults. In fact, one of them, after he had done a Broadway show and a national tour and had been the lead in Wu-Tang, I got to hire him as a recurring character on one of the last shows I did.
Great. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of went hand in hand. So the virtual shadowing 2025 episodic television directing class gave filmmakers a chance to shadow you.
Yeah.
How did you approach making that experience feel as authentic as possible compared to being on a physical set?
Yeah. That's a great question. Uh, 90% of the job that makes you successful as an episodic television director is how you prep the show. And most of my class for virtual shadowing is about getting my assets in terms of the script, the floor plans, the schedule, the any photos I've taken in terms of when I've location scouted. But it's how you plan to shoot when you get to shoot.
Mhm.
And that's all done in prep. And it's what makes you efficient and concise and precise when you go to shoot. One of the biggest compliments I've gotten recently was because I've Directors Tell the Story is really a handbook that I co-wrote, and it's used throughout the industry. I had the leading actress come up to me who knew the book and said, "Oh, you direct just like the book." And I went, "Yeah, that's why it's a handbook."
Yeah.
Because it really is it exactly what we tell, but also what makes this book special is it's so much of it is based on experience and anecdotes that really come from live practical you know we're telling you this because this happened to us on set. But the virtual shadowing is also there's a communication tool that happens because after a director has done all their work in terms of practicing and in terms of shot listing and deciding uh, what shots are going to use, what order they think they're going to shoot them in, how important is this scene to the show on the whole or this episode on the whole. They look at those things, but then the final class is them communicating to me how they're going to shoot it, which is really practical practice for how they're going to talk to their DP or their production designer, or this is how I see it, or even how they're going to talk to their actors. And if they have acquired certain skill sets like using action verbs, what is this scene about? Well, I want him to attack her. I want him to seduce her. I want her to fight back. Those sort of ways that you talk to actors that really are catalysts for them doing their best work. Um, they interact with me that way. And also, when I build my virtual shadowing classes, I love to have components of someone who's might be coming up from being a dialogue coach on a show. So they have a lot of experience, or an acting coach in general, or an actor themselves, which is how I started out. Um, and then have a director of photography, or have a script supervisor, or have an editor, so that their mutual skill sets complement each other. And that's been very, very helpful for people.
Six emerging episodic directors participated live, from my understanding. Anna, I
Mhm.
hope I pronounced their names all right. Anna Farr, Christina Y.R. Lim, Lillian T. Merle, Melissa Hazlip, Sonia Sebastian, who's actually a personal friend, and Whitney Clinkscales. What stood out to you about this group and the ways they engaged with the material?
Um, I think, first of all, their authenticity, because you might be a great director and have an idea of what you want to put on the screen, and even how you want to shoot it, and how you want to help mold the script. But when you get on set, if you don't know how to communicate with people, and it's the authenticity factor that is the deal breaker, in terms of most people being embraced when they come to a set, and people saying, and then the other one is passion. And I think that that particular group was both authentic and passionate about what they wanted to do, without an exception. So it was very interesting to me to see those people um, uh, succeed because their communication skills were like kind of off the chart good.
The
And I'm
cl-
going to say,
Go ahead, sorry.
in some cases, people said, what would ask me, what makes you a good director? I said, "I'm a mom." I said, and I've gotten kids, I've carpooled kids and gotten them to their destination on time and happy. And you know what? That's kind of like a formula for good directing. Can you do it on time, on budget, and keep people happy?
There you go. That's fantastic. I love that. So the class emphasized quite a few things at the prep of casting, location scouting, script breakdown, blocking overheads, shot listing. Which of these skills do you find new directors struggle with the most, and how do you coach them through that?
You know what? It's so interesting. Of the four books I've written, I have come up with two things for all of them. No, except with the exception of one of them. I have come up with the structure of the book, and I've also come up with the exercises in order to. I've come up with the exercises in order to look at the skill set that needs to be built and start at the very foundation of what's needed for this, and then build on top of it. So in order to do that, I'm looking at like location scouting. I'll give you an example. To come into a space you've never been before and go, how am I going to block this scene in this space? You know, there's certain things you have to do. So the exercise in the book literally says, go to the mall, uh, go into a store, look at it for about a minute and a half, go back out, and then draw the interior of that set. And then if you want to do, and then that's the bottom skill set. Then you go, okay, now I really do have a scene in this set where who's going to enter, who's going to exit, what line do they move on in order to exhibit character. But if you didn't know how to find the right set or choose the right location, this is something that you could do and practice over and over and over. So sometimes it's just this the building of the skill set. And I just have to say, only because I've co-written three of my books. In every case, I was not the person who found the voice for the book. In in every case, it was my co-author who said, "This is the voice I want for talking to the people who were writing this book for. So it's also knowing your skill sets and what you're very good at. I'm very good at structure. I'm very good at, mapping out skill sets and building on them. Um, I don't know why. Maybe because I started out as a dancer, or I still play the piano in terms of, goes down to the bar for a ballet dancer and scales for a piano player, you know, and it goes on from having one skill set and then transferring it or adding on to it for another.
Yeah. Well, you've directed everything from Elsbeth to NCIS New Orleans to the Miss Pat show. What are the key differences in preparing for a procedural, a comedy, and a character-driven drama?
Yeah, great question. I would say for a procedural, it's about the clues, it's about the steps, and being able to break down that script. Again, in Directors Tell the Story, the director's diagram, not my idea, my co-author's idea, Bethany Rooney. Um, I cannot tell you how many letters we get from people who have read this book and use it that say, this is the tool I use every time I direct an hour show. And I have to say, I just reply, me too.
Yeah.
And Bethany taught it to me. With a comedy, it's a little bit different. It's about knowing where the jokes are, and being able to recognize them. And not everybody can. I remember having people miss jokes in auditions, miss them on set. And it wasn't because they weren't good actors. They just didn't know it was a joke.
Hmm.
Or they didn't, or they weren't able to recognize the clues that are in a comedy script that it's something as simple as saying, oh, it's a setup and the punchline, or oh, I recognize it because it's what we call a run of three or a triplet. It's a joke that has three components, or it might be a joke that is what we call a mislead turn. So you have to know that the mislead has to be very strong so that the turn or the reversal of the joke is a surprise and adds the element of comedy to it, because surprise is essential in terms of you never want your audience ahead of the joke.
Yeah, so that was a little bit on episodic television directing. I want to talk a little bit about mentorship and diversity. You've taught in Warner Brothers, Discovery Access, ABC, Disney, CBS, Sony, HBO Access, and many diversity programs. What do you see as the biggest barriers to entry for underrepresented directors and how are these programs shifting the landscape?
Well, they were a game changer. I mean, I can just tell you as a person at the Directors Guild who has, worked in the diversity arena there, um, the statistics have changed radically. Now, there were more people given a chance and successful, and therefore became part of the working pool of directors because of these programs. They were essential and changed the playing field. Um, the sad thing right now in the last 4 years or so, or since the pandemic, and then the strikes on top of that, is that the contraction of the business has made it hard for anybody to get a job, even and because the pool of directors grew so much during this time, um, that all of a sudden the pool was so big and the contraction got so small, it's hard for a lot of people to get jobs at the moment. But in fact, I just got off a meeting where the people who are running the Warner Brothers Discovery program. Um, uh, Grace Moss, who's leading it, is just a champion. She will not be thwarted. She is going to keep in there and fighting and coming up with more things for the people who come from her program to do. And it's amazing to just see that kind of dedication. Um, and the big thing that it's changed is in terms of, when I said authenticity, to see um, uh, there was a lot of appropriation going on when I was first starting. I got a chance because I was a woman to enter spaces where other people didn't go. For example, I've directed a lot of African American centric shows, but it was because I was also an outlier as a woman. But I'm here to tell you that there's great African American directors who can be directing African American centric shows now. So the pool of people who can authentically tell their own stories is kind of wonderful that exists now.
Mm. So, looking forward, what advice would you give to filmmakers who observed a virtual shadowing 2025 but weren't part of the live class? How can they practice and grow these skills on their own?
Well, you could do what I did, which was set up your own curriculum. I mean, I was really, after being an actor, all my directing skills came from an autodidactic um, uh, manner for me. I basically said, what don't I know? Or where can I go to know what I don't know? And then how can I build that skill set? For me, I happened to live near AFI. They had a library. I would go to it every day that I wasn't figuring out how to get on a set, either by being a coach, an acting coach on the show, or saying to a friend, hey, can I drop by? Which is harder to do now. But I was the AFI library, reading a book, listening to lectures that they had, recorded from. I mean, I remember hearing one that um, Sidney Pollack had done,
Ah,
and in fact, multiple ones where he had come to AFI and spoken. I went, this is gold. I mean, and he did one in conjunction with James Woods, where it was an actor and a director talking to each other. And I thought, where do you get something like this? Even if you're at the best film school in the country, sometimes you don't get someone like Spielberg or Pollock or sometimes if you're at like a place like Chapman, John Badham actually is your professor, where there's some of the greats who have dedicated themselves to being the teachers of the next generation. But uh, it's really amazing to see, that people get opportunities. But I would say create the opportunities for yourself. And there's just one thing, and it's not me, it's my friend Todd Holland who said, directors direct. I don't care if you have to do it on your phone. I don't care where you do it. But if you have the passion to want to do it, and I would say the new market for people who aren't in the union as directors right now, verticals, verticals,
mhm.
verticals. It's a wild west out there, and the experience you can get if you can direct a successful vertical and do many of them, you're going to be so much better and more experienced than 90% of the people who get their first shot on a TV set.
Mm,
You've practiced. You've
practice.
practiced grace under fire, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I would say practice, practice, practice.
So, lastly, Mary Lou, after decades of shaping television and lifting up new voices, what excites you the most about where the medium is headed in the next 5 years?
Um, well, I think we have come into a new golden age of television. And that might be on YouTube or verticals in the future, but story, 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 character, character, character seems to be rising to a new level uh, in terms of the writing's better. And when the writing's better, it inspires directors to be better directors and actors to be better actors. And, so I think that I don't think that's ever going to go away again. I think the excellence we're going to see from storytellers is just going to shine and be at a new level. And, I like that we always try to surpass and do things better. But, if we can even maintain where we are now, you know, it's the business will be better for it.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Wow. Great to see you, Mary Lou. Please keep in
Oh,
touch.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
we're
so much for having me. This has been I love talking about craft. I love talking about the
yes.
next generation, and I love talking to you.
Ditto. Yeah, we're the Hollywood Times today. The Hollywood Times official is our YouTube channel and aspiringmagazine.com. Now, how can our readers and viewers find out more about you and about the things you do?
I do marylubelli.com. And also I'm going to encourage anybody who is a, a possible uh, applicant for the TV Academy to join, or to join if, especially if you're a student, to join as an associate. There's plenty of programs, and then just take class. But marylubelli.com is my website, and there's lots there
Cool.
to look at, books to read, things
Great.
that I post on my Facebook page too, because my Facebook page is not about me, it's about the business.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Mary
Okay.
Lou. My best to the family and
Thank you.
keep in touch.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great to
Thanks.
talk to
Have a
you.
great rest of your day. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye bye.